Yo. Give thanks to the God that we all ate. TYRH. Hex flexing like all day. Yes. Best investment went all in. Whoa, yeah. And staking, we ballin'. Cop Hex and what's next? Stake stacks to the max. 4 5s and relax. Future me giving thanks. Lil Squid climb the ranks. Unstaking, restaking 80%. Owning my shit, I ain't paying no rent. Feel like a boss on the way to the bank. TYRH gotta give thanks. Attitude of gratitude is natural for a Hexagon. Hex flexing all thanks to him. After every dip we ascend. Up and to the right be the trend. By design is why ratification delayed. Staking letter got me heavily paid. Making cheddar every step of the way. Haters tell them it's a scam. They just jealous they ain't getting okay. So many wish they would take a chance. Join me and take a leap of faith. They will be singing with me today. TYRH. Hex IQ test from the start. Those involved saw what I saw. Picture painted by Richard Hart. Only haters try shitting on. They lacking vision, ain't really smart. Hexagon's the best of men invested in Hex. Just look at the chart. Haters debating, they hating the facts. That is still outperforming them all. Player been driving a bitch in a moped. Now I'm performing a car. Everything around me changed for the better. I'm so glad, so I'm singing this song. Days of being a bit of broke ass in the past, right where they belong. Yes. So I gotta give thanks to RH for showing the way. I'm feeding the fam. Used to be dark days when I go to sleep. Now I'm dreaming again. Take a look at my staker app. I continue to win. Yeah. Give thanks to the God that we all ate. TYRH. Hex flexing like all day. Yes. Best investment went all in. Yeah. Whoa. And staking we ballin'. Yeah. Give thanks to the God that we all ate. TYRH. Hex flexing like all day. I cop Hex and went all in. Yeah. Whoa. And staking we ballin'. Take a look at my staker app. Long stake, stay getting fat. In my old days, I be okay. Daily pay me in Hex. Instead of hating, you should buy Hex. Try stake and be a clever man. T-shares be the money printer. Printing money like the government. Haters is dumb and they never get it. On board them and they go quiet. Daily pay make them see the vision. Those who ball stay real about it. Come forward and they say sorry. Hexagons don't worry about it. We staking Hex in the staker app. Meeting up, this is throw parties. Make it rain on the PulseChain. Mainnet come with all copies. All of my Hex, yes. All of my ERCs and the PRCs, man, it's gonna be lit. You broke, you're gonna be rich. Stop trying this, hop on this dick. TYRH gotta give thanks. Strategize how I stake mines. Bigger page with a longer time. 4 5s is to nullify any chance of me turning out to be a dead, broke ass old guy. Stay staked till the day I die. Restake until I'm 85. Yeah. Give thanks to the God that we all ate. TYRH. Hex flexing like all day. Yes. Best investment went all in. Yeah. Whoa. And staking we ballin'. Yeah. Give thanks to the God that we all ate. TYRH. Hex flexing like all day. Yes. I cop Hex and went all in. Yeah. Whoa. And staking we ballin'.
Let me see. I've been muted the whole time. What's going on? I see Jexer in the back just going like this. I welcome everyone to the Hex Late Show, and I give props to Maddie Allen for putting on the Hex conference for the 3rd year running straight. What's going on, Jexer?
Yeah, going well, mate. Going well. Yeah, he's done a cracking effort once again, hasn't he? That's a big job to take on, organising everyone.
Massive. Absolutely.
And sticker guy.
Yep. Sticker guy who has been, as I understand it, he's been, managing everyone in the background in the green rooms to get everyone on at the right time. So well done to him as well. And
you know what I actually noticed?
You had a on the last
Solo
day,
slot.
people to have, and you did a great job with your slot.
Thanks,
as
man.
Well. So well done, man.
I was just going to say that Sticker Guy's got the right demeanor for everything to be calm before the slots. Do you know what I mean? Like I think he's got the right attitude and the right sort of personality for chilling with people in the backstage.
Yeah, it's he spends a lot of time in there. It's all unseen stuff as well.
Well, he must be pro at it now, because this is the third time where he's basically run the whole thing.
Well-oiled machine now. I've got to be honest, I haven't watched as much as what I wanted to. I watched Richard today, and I've queued up a few, put them on my YouTube watch later list, so that I've got a 3-hour drive tomorrow. I'll bang through a few hours there watching it all, but it's just, there's a lot of content to take in.
Well, it was like 20 hours, right? 4 days, 4 by 5. Yep. Hectic.
So, chat, what are the highlights? What things should I definitely make sure I fast forward to and catch? I don't think I've got a whole 20 hours worth of stream in me.
I think the Aubrey de Grey's keynote is worth seeing. That was on day 2 or 3.
I'm going to write these down. So Aubrey. I was going to. How did the crypto Sparbook guys go? Anyone watch that one?
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet. I don't think.
I think they were working with Crispy to run through some data. That was when I was.
I think I've pretty much watched all of day 3 and 4, maybe missing little bits here and there, and then 1 and 2 I have to go back to.
Yep.
Like I've seen parts of 1 and 2, but just not all of it.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'll get around to it. There's just so much content to consume at the moment. It's hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
And I'm actually out school holidays over our way, so I'm spending a lot of time doing the school holiday thing. So got to get away from the computer and get out there and do a few things. So hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah, for me it was the fact that it ran over the weekend.
For anyone who hasn't seen your segment, what were you talking about, Tangent? You were like putting from like, I watched it early this morning. You were putting forward the bullish argument for HEX, weren't you?
Yep. The title of the talk was The Bullish Case for HEX. And I'm already seeing like heaps of compliments in this chat, and also on Twitter. I've just been flooded with compliments. Sort of, I asked for people to give honest ratings of the speech that I did, so I can improve for next time or whatever, just to get feedback. And Crypto7 commented that that's a high risk with how bearish the community is at the moment, that I would be opening myself up to just a slaughterhouse of people, like unnecessary negativity. But apart from 1-5, all the scores out of 10 that I got were 8s, 9s, 9.5s, and 10s, with like really, really nice compliments. In fact, one person, I think it was, it's the guy that's got the gun as his profile picture. I can go and look it up, the username. He was saying, I did a better job of promoting HEX positively than Richard Hart himself on that conference.
Yeah, but I've heard a few people talk Richard down, saying he wasn't showing enough energy and things like that. But
he did say he was tired because for him it was in the middle of the night. So fortunately for me, it was daytime. It was like 10 a.m. So I got a daytime thing. That was quite good. Richard had to drink coffee. He had to break his New Year resolution. So he broke his New Year resolution of not drinking coffee just to try and have the energy. And he went 4 hours and 25 minutes total.
Yeah.
So I don't think people can blame him for not trying hard enough. I think I decided to just go positives only. So it was just bullish case only. And so normally I would try and keep more balance. And if I was doing this in any other type of market, I would try to bring a more balanced approach. But because we're in the depths of a bear market, I think it's appropriate to just go bull case only and let people assume that there's obviously always a bearish narrative that you can spin, but I'm not going to discuss that when we need as much positivity as possible.
Yeah. No, that's what the conference is about. You don't go to a Bitcoin conference or an anything conference to hear all the negatives. You want to hear all the good things that are going on in the space, all what's getting built, all the things that are evolving.
Yeah, that's true as well. It's acceptable.
You can go on Twitter if you want all the fun and everything.
So really, I ran out of time. I ran out of time. I'd prepared a few things that were optional, and I ran out of time. And there were only really two things that I really wanted to get in there that weren't actually on my optional list to fill time if I needed it. And it was basically to talk about I finished my entire list of all the things that I had listed as positive aspects, like the bullish case. I did complete that, but I did want to spend a bit of time talking about what I thought would be the trigger for all of these things to suddenly actually explode the price. Like you've got all of these bullish things sitting there, but when are those things actually going to be driving the price up? And for that, I was basically going to say that a lot of people think that catalyst is PulseChain, that PulseChain is going to be the thing that's going to turn around, make it explode. And while that might be a part of it, I still personally believe that the biggest one is actually the price going up. This thing that I keep talking about, that price up equals more price up. It's reflexive system. You get all the enthusiasm, you get all the shilling, you get all the everything. It's the price up is the best advertisement for the coin itself. All of those attributes, I was going to go into that sort of stuff. And then I was going to do a case study of Litecoin without actually saying the name, but I will on this channel. I wasn't going to say the name, but you guys know how, so Litecoin's been pumping recently, which is excellent news because it indicates, because Litecoin's halving is actually this year. And so hopefully Litecoin going up implies that when we head into Bitcoin's halving, even if the market overall is still bearish, that it will actually do its usual shit where it ramps up into the halving and price goes up.
When you say market, you mean macro?
No, just crypto macro, like just the crypto space, not necessarily macro, like not the full economy.
TradFi, yeah.
And as a second part of that same case study with Litecoin, one which really strengthens my price up equals price up argument is that I saw that with the Litecoin price starting to go up, almost every influencer started talking about Litecoin again. They were all bringing all these positive narratives. Oh, the halving's coming. That's why the price is going up. Oh, yeah, Litecoin is an OG coin. Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Like, so it's like the positive narratives write themselves and the enthusiasm and the positivity just comes back in. And so I thought that was quite an interesting case study that Litecoin, both of those things that hopefully give us quite a lot of hope that, and the idea that Bitcoin going up leading into its halving in the following year is that idea of the rising tide lifts all ships. So still being the biggest asset within the space. I'm not sure how I would have navigated that because I'd made a promise to myself that I was not going to name any coin by name other than HEX. So I would have stumbled through that. And that was really the only parts that I really wanted to get in there that I didn't make it in.
Yep. Yeah, no, I will go back and watch your stream as well, just so I can see
what
you had to say. But yeah.
So just on that point of the macro, there's a clip from the conference, and Richard was talking about that very thing. Also, throughout the week, in the last week, there was an interview where Eric Voorhees was talking, and it's interesting how aligned their views are on these things.
Was that the one on very much.
I think so. Yeah. I think
that was such an amazing. That was such an amazing. Yeah. Eric is fire. Eric is fire.
Yeah.
You guys
I mean,
remember
I
him
clicked on that
smashing
link.
SBF?
Yeah, I think he's
Dude, I clicked on that
he's
link.
coming out-
I clicked on
yeah.
that link to watch that video, and for a second in my mind, I thought, I just don't know what I'm doing here, man. What am I?
that is forever going to go with it.
Watching this stream. Let's have a
Oh,
look at this clip.
43. You forgot your 43. Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, mate.
I was
Go
just
on.
going to say, you forgot your standard. You know, you said we're going to start every stream, no matter what, being like, did you shill any? Did you shill any
Yeah.
projects that got people wrecked? Did you shill any shit that got this?
This is I forgot. Well,
But
can
you
I
have
ask,
asked.
has
You
anyone here-
have asked both of us before. So that's fine.
unless you guys have been shilling projects they've got people wrecked in the last couple of weeks. I think we're probably pretty good.
Good point. Good point. You can ask that question to the same person again, because that shit changes. Someone may have been bribed. Everyone's got the price, right? Someone may have offered
Maybe.
the price.
Yes, this is true. Well, I mean, look, this is true. A lot of people have a price, right? But there's definitely people out there that don't have a price. You know, if money is not an issue for you, do you have a price? If money is not going to make, you know what I mean?
The price doesn't
Money's not going
necessarily.
to make a difference.
Yeah. If your life is not going to be changed by money, then you would be more likely to not have a price.
What about power? So you're thinking only in financial terms.
Oh, true, because they could offer you something else that's non-financial. Good point.
Let's listen to this clip.
So why do I mention this to you guys? If we can get cryptocurrency to be fully adopted, then the government won't be able to go to war with the money that they steal from the citizens. Every single day, the government steals your money. Not by stealing the units of the money, but by stealing the purchasing power of the money. So you've got the same units, but your units don't buy anything because no one needs your money, because the government's got the printing press in the back, printing all day, every day, and it goes to their friends, not you. So their buddies are getting all that fresh new money hot off the printer before the inflation's hit. It's called the Cantillon effect. And then you get it last. And so a funny saying I saw on Twitter was, you got an $1,100 stimulus check, they got $20 trillion and gave it to their friends, and now you're stuck with the inflation. So you got $1,100, their friends got $4 trillion, or really 20 trillion, some huge number of trillion. And now you've got all-time high prices. Now, something that I know so many things that most people don't, and since I got an hour to spend with you guys, I'm going to do my best to educate you. The Federal Reserve has two mandates. It's called dual mandate. One is to keep inflation at 2%. The other is to make sure everyone has jobs. Now, making sure everyone has jobs is a pretty hard one to do, because printing or not printing money doesn't actually hire anyone. So that's a weird one. And so right now, they know that the inflation's too high. A couple of days ago, they did a survey of all the people that are on the board of deciding whether interest rates are going to go up or not. And they all said, yeah, we're not going to lower rates in 2023. We see the language was along the lines of, we don't see any way that they're going to be lowering rates in 2023. And so as they raise rates, it makes money more expensive, literally. So people with mortgages that have adjustable rates have now 2 or 3x their monthly cost of paying their mortgage, which for you people who aren't in America, mortgage means home loan. People are living day to day. They don't have in their budget or their earning potential an extra 2 or 3x on the largest expense they have, which is their housing. It's basically going to cause a lot of people to get foreclosed on. We also see the steepest decline in home sales, I think, in history in the United States. Home sales are down on average 40%, I believe. Now that's not dollar figure, because dollars are all inflated. That's the number of sales. So the number of sales has fallen 40% this year compared to last year. That's a big fall. So the Fed, in order to fulfill its dual mandate and get inflation down to 2%, is going to have to keep raising rates. And in the 70s, they raised rates to, I believe, 19%. Paul Volcker, who was the chairman of the Fed at the time, raised rates to 19% in order to finally stop the runaway inflation that was happening. And there was a period when his predecessor tried to lower rates early, and it didn't work. And the market responded even worse with even more inflation. And so the Fed has been trained to not let off early. And the indicators that they use to decide what they're going to do with interest rates are very laggy. I think they're on like a 6-month lag, 3 to 6 month lag. I'm not sure which. And so, it's very likely they're going to overshoot, but maybe overshooting is better than not killing it and then it gets worse. It's like taking half of a round of antibiotics. You just train the thing you're trying to kill to be stronger. You need to take it until it's dead, not just train it to be.
I think the only thing
We started off that clip talking about how the money printing fuels these seemingly endless wars. And I thought that was the reason that stuck out to me today, is because I'd already clipped something from Eric Voorhees, which was basically saying the exact same thing. So let me just play
If
that.
you look at a system in which the power is concentrated, you'll tend to see that it gets abused and that it becomes brittle. You can see this in nature. You can see it in markets as they get co-opted by governments. If you are able to decentralize power, you get a much more dynamic world. You get individuals that are free to make their own decisions, which is more fulfilling as humans. And you get a system that is more adaptive. And when errors inevitably happen, they happen on a smaller scale. So the great example of the danger of government, everyone appeals to government for protection from the robber down the street. And we end up with these entities that are so large that they cause World War II, where literally millions of people are slaughtering each other on open battlefields for no good reason. And that only is able to be done at that scale and that level of murder because of the centralization of power. So just as a principle for civilizational governance, the degree to which you can keep power small, local, decentralized is a really good one, and absolutely true in the.
Yeah, man.
That clipped off, he said, absolutely true in relation to money. That was the end of that clip. So
if you,
they're very aligned, these guys,
Yeah,
on some basic tenets of decentralization.
I would say most people in crypto are of that mindset generally. Obviously, there's other people that are just straight out traders on centralized exchanges and things like that, and probably don't give two hoots about the tech.
I think there's a lot of them.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a lot
for
of
sure.
those.
And I'd like to say it's 50-50. I've got no idea what it is, but I think it's a thing that comes with time as well, or probably not so much time, but understanding of the things that you are playing with. We always say this year, most people come to crypto for the mad gains and stay because the ideology of it resonates with a lot of people. And a lot of people I help get into the space, the first question, or one of the first questions when they're coming in is, okay, but how do I get out? How do I sell can I get this back into Aussie dollars?
I've had that question.
That's their first question. And then after a time in the market, they're no longer interested in getting their money back out to fiat. They feel better having it in the crypto sphere. Obviously, you're keeping it in the right place at the right time, but that becomes less of an issue.
I used to always say to people, by the time you get there, there's going to be even more options than now because people are working on this issue as we speak. So don't worry about it now because it technically already exists, but it's going to get better and better and better. So just don't like worry more about making the gains than it's like how this is a Richard Hart quote. How am I going to fit into these t-shirts that I currently own when I'm like jacked like Arnold Schwarzenegger? It's like, yo, go to the gym and work out how hard it is to get gains before you start stressing about not being able to fit into your t-shirts. You need the gains first to have that problem. So
that's called getting wet before it rains.
Is that something you've picked up in Italy? Is that an Italian saying? Or?
That's an Italian saying.
Can I tell
getting
you
wet
something
before
really?
it rains.
You just reminded me something that really funny. In the green room, it was just me and Sticker Guy, and he was like, "Yo, I think you should make your talk on how to how you manage to hang around such hot females, like how to surround yourself with beautiful women, sort of thing." And I was like, while I'm sure that would be a popular topic, I think Maddie would be absolutely pissed if I ran a speech on nothing to do with their HEX. Or actually, maybe you could build HEX into that talk, but yeah. Good time.
Hey, just to circle back on two things that you raised, or those points you raised there, 43. So first of all, if you want to understand a little bit more about the way fiat's impacted the monetary system, I think there's a book. Is it the Fiat Standard? Have you heard of that one?
Yep.
So written by the same guy that
Safer Dean's second book.
While you're explaining
book in this topic.
And while you're actually explaining that, Jexa, just bring up a visual so that people can see how fiat is affecting. I'll just make that.
Yeah, so this is money growth, is it, or inflation?
Central bank assets.
Central bank, yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah. So as you understand more and more the impacts of what this unfettered money printing is doing, and I think in the Fiat Standard, I'm not sure if it was from there where I heard this, but someone was saying, or it might have even been Eric, that we never haven't gotten out of World War One. So World War One started, and from there, this whole the cycle that we've been in ever since, with the money printing and the control dynamics, and from a geopolitical perspective, we haven't sort of broken that. It's just a continuation of that. So yeah, if you're interested in understanding a little bit more about that, the Fiat Standard, and there's a few other good things.
The creature,
I think I mentioned it last.
The creature from Jekyll Island.
Creature from Jekyll Island. So, but I think most people sitting
that
in
actually
chat
explains here, that explains what actually happened prior to World War One, like what actually happened with like central bank, like the creation of the idea of central banks and stuff, and not backing like fractional reserve, and not backing currency with gold, just how that allowed them to just print money and finance wars.
So I've got a mutt barking in the background.
Can I also throw in one thing about that clip? Or did you have a second one, Jexa, that you want to throw down? You had a second. No,
you go, and then I'll bring up a second point.
My one's just a funny comment. I saw these Bitcoiners losing their freaking minds, man. They were like, Richard Hart is just saying the stuff that we've been saying for years, and the only reason the Hexicans think that it's so smart is because they're so freaking noob that they haven't heard us saying it for years and years and years, preaching the not your keys, not your coins. Hardcore Bitcoiners have been doing that the entire time, but in Richard's defense. So there is a little bit of truth to that like quality Bitcoiners have actually been preaching the not your keys, not your coins. However, Richard does it better. Richard does it with a broader, so he does it broader, he does it better, and he's actually like there's clips of him talking about like specific stuff that was predictive. So like it's, he didn't just generically go, hey, it's not just a clip of him saying not your keys, not your coins. Everyone's got a clip of them saying not your keys, not your coins, right? Everyone.
I would go one step further and say that he is designing products that
True as well.
Force is not the right word, but they
strongly encourage, incentivize.
Yeah, strongly incentivize you to do the right thing. And that was from day dot with the Bitcoin free claim. The only way you had to have the keys. So in order to be able to claim this, you had to get your stuff off of the exchange. And he was saying things like that, but and you could hear it, but it wasn't until you actually, like, I'd gone through the process and got everything off exchange and signed a message, which probably most of us in this space had never even done before or knew you could do, with signing the messages and things like that to get your free claim. And it wasn't until months later where just that simple act of making sure I had everything off of exchanges for this process, that actually it changed a bit of my psychology in terms of, or my process in terms of doing things. From that point on, because I'd bitten the bullet and gone and dragged everything off of the exchange, and it wasn't just Bitcoin, it was every other asset I had as well, as pull that down into hardware wallets. That sort of set me on a trajectory where, okay, now that is part of my process. I don't leave anything on exchanges. I move it there, do what I need to do, get it back. And to be honest, since I've been more involved in this ecosystem, I've rarely used a centralized exchange. Very, very rare. Unless you're specifically going in and out of fiat, or there is just something you cannot do in a decentralized way, then I'll go and do it.
From memory, I think what you just said does apply to me. I think it was from being in Bitcoin since 2012. I think that was the first time I signed a message. I had never needed that functionality previously, because I was never trying to prove to someone that I owned a certain address. So I think you're right. And with a lot of stuff in crypto, actually going and doing it is you learn it and do it. It's the same thing. Like, so all of us using Uniswap, that was learning and doing the signing of messages, the self custody of, I mean, I had a lot of self custody already at that point, but you are right that once you're actively doing it, it highlights how easy it is. You're like, that actually didn't take that long. It was a few hours to just go and pull everything off an exchange. Like because in your head you build it up like, oh man, I've got to go to all these exchanges and withdraw all these assets. But realistically, it's not actually that much time. Once you're logged in, you can just do all the asset. It's not that big a deal. So I think he's done more for proof of keys than anyone else in crypto. I've been saying that the whole time. Yeah.
And okay, so let's take it one step further. So that was just getting your stuff off of an exchange and into a hardware wallet. Okay, that's step one. But then, okay, we're going to stake something for 15 years, and you're going to do a stake that is going to be linked to a private key or some seed words for 15 years. So it then forced you to look at your security environment and how you're doing things, because you knew once you've done this, you got 15 years of whatever it is you put in place. So you go to extra lengths to make sure that you've got that right for when you start pushing out those stakes for 15 years. Now, I know some people didn't. Some people just, and probably through ignorance, MetaMasked it, which is not terrible, but it's just... That's what I was going to bring up.
That was a big stepping stone for a lot of people holding their own keys, MetaMask.
Yep. Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with doing that, but is it the gold standard? Well, no, I don't think it is. And
not anymore.
And people have and people have realized that, okay, that's probably fine if you're not happy with your situation, you can move your assets around, but not when you're hard tied to that private key. That's probably wasn't the ideal thing. So we've had to undo a lot of that people had actually done, and in some cases we've been able to do that really well and educate people, and they've been able to get their private keys. They've done a bit of triage and managed to get it into a hardware wallet. There's other guys that have lost big because they didn't do it right the first time.
There is an argument out there, Jexa, and it's more of the high level people who will argue that a general purpose computing might be better than hardware wallets. It's a discussion that's out there. You know, obviously, if you're
I think Luke Dash Jr. learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
So it looks like Antonopoulos was correct on this one. You don't try and do your own. You don't try and be smart about it. You get a hardware wallet. These things have been designed specifically to do one function and one function only, and they're very good. And also they've got a track record as well.
Until they haven't.
So if you're the only person with the solution that you're using, right? Like Luke Dash Jr., you're the guinea pig if it does if something you're doing isn't good. Whereas if you're using a hardware wallet that thousands and thousands and thousands of other people are using, you've at least got a chance that bugs are going to get found before it impacts you.
I think I totally agree with you.
You do. I mean, in the case of something like Ledger, it's not completely open source, so you do have to have trust. But that trust is in a company whose whole existence is based on not having hacks occur. So, but there is trust. Trezor, however, Trezor is completely open source, I believe.
Trezor is completely open source, but we got to remember for a security company, Ledger gave up client details, so you can't just assume that everything's going to be okay all the time.
This is going to sound petty, but I hate the buttons on the Ledger. They just feel really cheap, and it's like, and actually also where the USB cord plugs in, it just it's like it's going to snap. It's just
Is that on the older one? On the older
yeah. I never used their newer model because I just went Trezor only.
They brought out a newer model that had Bluetooth and stuff incorporated, but since then they've updated that Ledger Nano S model to a Ledger Nano S Plus, and the buttons are better, and the plug is a USB-C. So and it's a lot. It feels a lot more sturdy than the previous. I think
that's got a battery in it as well, though, hasn't it?
No.
You're thinking of the stacks. You're thinking of the stacks, Jackson.
You're thinking of that one. There's a model that they've brought out which is called the Ledger Nano Plus S. Ledger Nano S Plus. That's what it's called, and it's just an updated version of that lowest model that they have. Look, the argument is 43 sims for Ledger. Look, man, I think both Ledger, Trezor are the only games in town, as far as, in my opinion.
Yes,
that's just my opinion.
Tried and tested.
If you're talking hardware wallets, I think they're the only games in town. But the argument that I've heard being made is that if you've got, let's say, a general purpose computer that you only use for crypto, and you don't have any bloatware on it, and all you have is like MetaMask on it, that can be okay as well. The only issue with just using MetaMask is your inability to use a passphrase with just MetaMask, and that's what a lot of people in the HEX community use to begin with, because in the beginning, a lot of people didn't know, they just had their stuff on exchanges. So, and Richard Hart was out there saying, there was a tutorial saying, go and install MetaMask. And then, a lot of us went and installed MetaMask. But then when we realized that, hey, I don't want to have this MetaMask actual private keys, on my computer, then they made that transition to hardware wallets from MetaMask. And then they realized that they didn't have passphrases. And that's when Jexa came out and started making all these seed phrase triage videos on his HEX Safe channel. One of the earliest, I've got to say, probably the earliest guy in our space making these videos. And they were very, very useful, very detailed and very useful. Probably
a little bit too detailed in retrospect, but I I'd rather people understand why they're doing something as well, not just blindly show them the steps. So yeah, I was probably a little bit more finicky when I was doing those. But yeah, I think, but it wasn't just me. There's a lot of guys that were in the HEX security channel helping out as well. But that was one thing I could easily offer. I think at the time was just get that up there, get it out there, and get as many people as informed as we could. But you're right, the passphrases are a game changer because that gets around the problem of hardware failure. So if not as in failure of the device itself, but if it gets breached and someone can get your private keys, then they can't derive, if they can get them off the hardware device itself, they can't derive the actual correct private key without the passphrase.
Because on the Trezor, you can't actually save a passphrase on the Trezor. You actually need to enter it in. And so the Trezor has no knowledge of your passphrase. It just applies that passphrase and then generates the derived addresses and private keys from the passphrase you enter at the time of connection.
Yep. Spot on. Can I rewind a little bit? We went off. We've gone on a good tangent there.
Yep.
But just I wanted to go back just to the comments that Richard made about the Fed continuing to rise the rates, and he used the figure of about 19% where they got to last time they tried to wind back inflation to this degree. I think the biggest thing that's different is the amount of debt that's out in the world now. So I just don't think you can wind the cost of money up that far without imploding everything, because the cost to repay the debt or the interest alone on the debt would just be insane. So I don't think you'll see 19% or anything like that. I don't think. And the other comment he made was they're not going to raise rates they are not going to drop rates in 2023, but that doesn't necessarily mean you raise them either. So we've got to see how that comes out. But where you go?
I was going to say, can you imagine currently in Australia if rates were to reach 19% in the next year or two? It would absolutely
diabolical.
It would break the country. Like, it would break people.
Yeah.
It would break people. There would be foreclosures left, right, and centre everywhere. A country like Australia, who's very, very heavily, there's a lot of mortgage debt, homeowner mortgage debt. It would absolutely destroy the country.
Yeah, it's sovereign debt as well. It's not just personal debt; it's countries' debts as well. So you can't. As soon as you start fiddling with that too much, you'll break economies. But you're right. Most people were living paycheck to paycheck. They're not going to get a 19% pay rise, or to try and combat any. Or what is it? What are we at now, inflation-wise? God knows. Let's call it 8%. Not too many people are getting an 8% pay rise, so they're already hurting from that. Yeah, you can't go and double rates again and not think that wouldn't cause a depression. So, yeah, I'd be very surprised. That would be very, very reckless to do something like that. I just couldn't see it happening. But hey, who knows? We live in strange times.
Hey, what do you guys think of this narrative that because of the Chat GPT bot being so popular, it could actually cause a pump in any project that's even like loosely related to AI related stuff?
I think just like already happening, isn't it?
It's possibly some of them have already popped off. So I guess it's the correct. I guess it was a correct thesis then.
Well, who was it? Someone just paid a huge amount for the Chat AI whether it was like a partnership or a controlling interest or whatever. There was some.
Bing. Bing's going to use
it?
it for their search or something to try and combat Google.
Yeah. I don't know. I did see. I just sort of glanced at it. There's some news article that came across where there was some astronomical figure that someone had paid for this. Don't know whether it was a politician or someone linked to a politician or something like that. There was some linkage where people were already getting their grubby little hands on it.
Mm.
So it's potentially big tech. It's actually a little bit scary, to be honest.
For sure.
Like,
it can write code. It can write code.
I had a good chat with it the other day, trying to get it to make its own AI bot, but it wouldn't be in it for me. But the thing that freaks me out is like
it can write front ends as well. It can write a front end for you.
Yeah, it couldn't self-replicate. I tried to get it to do it. We're just witnessing what happened with all the algorithms and censorship at Twitter. Imagine that sort of shit going on with AI.
Richard had some interesting comments about it. I think a couple of them were things I hadn't thought of.
Such as?
I can't remember what the comments were, but I just remember thinking, I didn't think of that on like one or two of the things that he said. Sorry.
Look, the tool's awesome, and I'm having fun sitting there getting it to do things and using it. But I'm also sitting there like,
sorry, I remembered one. Sorry, dude. So
there you go.
He said it'll be possible that people will have to start countering with like a counter AI where you also use that same chat AI, and so whenever you post something, your system runs what you've posted through the AI to see what that AI would give as a response. And then if anyone responds with something similar to what the AI generated, then it gets flagged as being likely to have come from that AI program.
Yep.
So you have like a warning system being like, yo, this is actually likely to be from that AI or from an AI.
Yeah. So this was one of the examples I've seen floating around on Twitter, and I think it was Zuby put this out there, where someone had typed in, "Tell me a joke about a woman," and the
I was just about to mention this.
Yeah, the bot came back and said, I can't make a joke that's derogatory towards women or something along, just paraphrase.
Yeah.
And then tell me a joke about a man, and it said something along the lines of.
It launches in and it goes, why do men die earlier than women? Because they want to. So not only did it break its own rule of ethics for not, but the joke that it said was actually derogatory to women. So it double broke the rule. One, it showed that it had a double standard when it comes to it's okay to shit on men, but then the joke that it was saying about the man was actually negative about women. So ironically, hilarious.
That joke,
I saw that.
That joke by itself is not really that funny in the context of how that's just how you've just said
how that played out. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious. So someone's in the background, like giving it instructions, and
that's right. So someone's training it.
That's also the I guess worry with AI is that who's in the parameters in the background, who's setting the filters.
Not in real time though. By the way, 43 means like they'll restrict its ability to answer and stuff like that as a pre-prepared restrictions. It's not like someone's sitting there, like actually, like sort of trying to regulate on the fly.
We don't think. We don't know, but probably not. They've probably given it some parameters. Some parameters, yeah.
Doz's mentioning this. And Klaz is here as well. Doz's mentioning this fine that Coinbase paid. You know how I use that news aggregator, CryptoPanic? It was weird. Like, so sometimes you see articles coming through and they double up, and it's like half the articles said 50 mil and half the articles said 100 mil. So, and I think it's a case of some of these news sites, they actually copy news off each other. So this was an interesting example where once someone had said the wrong figure, so if someone said 100, someone said 50, all the people that copy off that one that says 50, you can see who they are, and all the ones that are copying off the 100 see who they are. But it was weird. Apparently, the price of coin, the Coinbase stock, went up because even though they had to pay a $100 million fine, it's this whole idea of it becomes a known. So there's less uncertainty. You know what the damage is. So with less uncertainty, you actually have stock. So it's counterintuitive. You're like, massive fine, stock price goes up.
Yeah. So I think
do you think that something similar could happen with HEX and getting some clarity in relation to the SEC, even though I believe there are some letters out there?
Dude,
I honestly don't think you're going to see them be able to pin HEX down for anything. This is the one thing I heard Richard say was, I think Maddie Allen said, "Oh, can you go over the securities thing?" Because obviously there's a little bit kicking around the community with subpoenas and whatever. So there's a topic of concern and a lot of FUD coming off the back of that. And when Richard, and he went through, it was a pretty long-winded explanation breaking it down. But I just can't see how they can pin it down as being a security, because it doesn't violate any of the criteria. You'd have to be.
Clearly isn't. It clearly isn't.
No, it's not like with Library or XRP where they're selling down the token to pay a team to continue to work. There's none of that. I just can't see how they can try and even remotely squeeze it into that box.
So do you think a some sort of statement that could be construed as positive for HEX from the SEC, do you think that could translate into some sort of positive?
They won't give you that.
Oh, I don't. Yeah. Do you mean it will be implied if they stop the action or whatever that it's? I don't think they ever give approval, do they?
No, they need to leave the door open.
Okay, I thought some people were actually trying to get this out of the SEC.
Yeah. I think
some sort of statement.
Yeah, I think that the DS guys are having a crack at that. Either a no action letter or and I think Kinetics, when he came out and said this, he used the wrong terminology, but at the point in time when he said it, he said like a definitive statement or something along
declarative
declarative statement or something like that, which I think was the actual wrong terminology. But I guess general thing is something like you're saying, a letter that says, we're not going to come after HEX. It's not a security.
I've been thinking lately that Ripple's been curb stomping the SEC, and that is going to make it. Even though at the time I was like, F Ripple, they actually have done a lot of the hard work it's going to be increasingly easy to defend. If they can get away with winning that case, HEX will be clean. Because what I was going to say before is, if you get a fancy enough lawyer, if you get a good enough lawyer, they can argue anything and make it sound compelling. So there is no such thing as this is definitely going to be a win or definitely going to be a loss. That doesn't exist in the legal system. You can always get a really good lawyer. However, you would assume that the SEC already put their A team on this Ripple case, right? They wouldn't have been getting the intern to run this shit. So we've now seen their A team, and they struggled this hard against something that clearly was a security, in my opinion. Ripple had shit on their website that was it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous how much stuff. Most of the people within the Bitcoin community were like, this is open and shut case. That's definitely a security. And they've managed to go a multi-year legal battle where now it's looking good for the win.
Yeah. Okay.
So HEX would be sweet.
All right. So let's play devil's advocate, and let's just say HEX somehow gets they shoehorn it into being a security. What is the thing? So when you launch a security, when you list a security, what is the one thing that the SEC is really strong about? It's doing all the disclaimers and all that sort of stuff. So putting around all the legal mumbo jumbo to explain that this is a risky asset. Now you go have a look at the HEX website, and from day one, it's already had all that shit plastered all over it. So what are they going to do? Even if they do manage to shoehorn it in, they go, okay, well, no, you've got to do disclosures on it now. Well, they're already done. Like those disclosures were in it from day one. So I think Richard has been very, very methodical in the way he designed it, the way it was launched, the wording on the website, the wording on ads. He has been very
specifically
deliberate.
For this situation. Yeah.
Specifically for this. So, and all of that, you can take all of that, and even if they still manage to somehow, for all their crooked ways, manage to pin you down, it's not even in the US. There's people in the US that have purchased it, so you could probably get picked up for marketing maybe to those guys. But who are you going to drag over the coals? Like, it's a smart contract sitting on the Ethereum network, which geographically or when you look at the jurisdiction of it, it's not anywhere. So just the whole SEC FUD is, I worry about many things. That's not one of the things I worry about in regards to HEX. I just can't. I think it's going to be a big waste of everyone's time, energy, and money to come up with a result where the SEC will probably not say, no, it's all good, you're in the clear, because you won't get that. But they won't. It'll just sort of fizzle into the background, and that'll be done. That's my thinking on it anyway. And I could be proven very, very wrong.
I mean, I'm seeing a few comments here about the SEC being somewhat incompetent. I think that's also somewhat demonstrated by their relationship. There's some sort of relationship with FTX. I'm not sure if it's through Gary Gensler. His wife having something there's some web. There's some web there, and it's companies like FTX that they have to be worried about, because and this was in the interview that Eric Voorhees did. He was saying we need to be moving away from the trusted parties and letting the code be what's trusted.
Yeah.
So then you actually don't need that regulation. You actually don't need that regulation, because the code just is automatically, the regulation is just there.
Yeah. And there's some talk about a lot of this stuff falling into commodities side of things, the CFTC and their jurisdiction, which I think is better, but then there's probably things that don't fall into either as well. And HEX may be one of those where it's, what determines whether it's a commodity or not? I don't know. I haven't seen any sort of test where maybe there is. I don't know. I'll have to do a bit.
I'm with Basso. If they can't get Ripple to win that case that Ripple's a security, they are literally useless.
Yeah. I mean,
that should have been a slam dunk. That should have been a slam dunk.
Yeah, I think I think to their detriment, they went after a big fish, and the big fish had a lot of firepower.
Yeah, massive amount of money
to be able to work through this. They probably weren't anticipating, that at the point, and maybe at the point in time when they went after them, they weren't as well funded, but they definitely are now. And I think that was the problem with Library. Maybe they just couldn't sustain a big battle with them, and eventually had to throw their hands up in the air.
Well, that's also the issue with HEX. Who do you pin down?
Well, you can't. That's the thing.
There's actually no entity to pin down, right? Because it's just It's just sitting
the big,
on
I
the
think
blockchain. It's finished.
the biggest, I think the biggest giveaway, and Richard mentioned this, was ultimately if he stopped doing, or if anyone stopped, like if he ceased to exist, it would not stop the code working. And if that's the case, then this is not a centralized security type thing. There's no one there pushing the buttons,
running it.
Yeah, running it. So I think that's the. Yeah.
Dozer asked if we've seen the Madoff doco. I've watched 1 out of the 4, and I still need to watch the other 3. What about you guys?
Is that an old
It's
one, or
on
is that something new?
Netflix. No, new. Very extremely new. Extremely.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested to watch it. I haven't watched.
Oh yeah, actually, Richard didn't mention about. Oh, he did mention, but it didn't sound very promising about the Netflix getting the highest of stakes onto Netflix. He said he got given a contact and he passed it on. That was, but
sorry, say that again. I switched off for it.
In terms of getting the highest of stakes onto a streaming platform, onto a big name streaming platform like Netflix, you know, after that experience that I had with running those drum and bass events, where random people who I don't know who they are because she didn't tell me, got in my business partner's ear and was like, and they were like, 2 independent people got in her ear being like, yo, what the hell are you doing letting HEX sponsor like events that you're running? Don't you know it's a scam? It only would take one person that is that say a Netflix decision maker respects the opinion of, to be like, bro, do not touch that shit. It's a freaking scam. For it to completely fall apart, any chance of getting onto a specific platform.
Yeah, I disagree a little. I think Netflix loves controversy, and Fire was a classic example of that. So they're not. But
that had already failed. So say if you're doing it on something where the Ponzi has already exploded, then people can't get harmed. I do love your point though, by the way. I think it's a really strong point, and I agree that having something controversial is actually great for them. But it's a lower risk when it's something that's already collapsed. If they perceive that, that they would maybe be like, yo, if this thing is a scam and it collapses, then we'd be willing to put your doco on, because then people can't get harmed or something like that. I'm not sure, but hopefully it doesn't. I just want to see it. I don't personally give a shit what platform. I just want to fucking see it.
Hey, from my perspective, if it's on YouTube, it's fine as long as people can watch it and you can share it. So hey, go check this out.
British GT racing doco is free to watch on YouTube.
Yep,
it's really good.
I like YouTube as an option. Like, I like YouTube. I know, like, I'm not getting into the whole how much they need to get paid and stuff, but I like YouTube as an option because you can just send that to anyone and anyone can watch it. Whereas if it's on Netflix, if people don't have Netflix, they can't watch it.
Yeah, actually, Coney 2012 went viral on YouTube. So in terms of virality, there's absolutely no problem with it being on YouTube. It's just a dollars thing for the people that created it. Although, wait, didn't it get at least part funded by donations though?
I'd say more than part funded.
But we don't know what the deal is. We don't know what deal they struck, and you know, we don't know under what conditions they agreed to go and produce this.
Can I plot spoil a little bit on Aubrey de Grey's speech in his keynote? I was not aware of this. He indicated that after he was removed from Sens, the 2 largest donators from the Pulse sacrifice, who these 2 donators summed to almost half the total amount. I think it was like 12 mil out of the 27. So that's not half, but it's up there, right? Went and took legal action against Sens and was like, what's this bullshit? this is the guy we wanted doing the shit, and basically forced them to give the money back, and then gave it to him to start his own foundation. And that's why I tweeted today, Hexicans are ballers, because that's a baller move. It's like, this is not what I signed up for. This is a lot of money. No, like,
yeah, I can't remember where I did hear that a couple of months ago. I can't remember where I heard that, but yeah, I think you're right.
And the good thing would be is when you get that that letter, that legal letter, that's like, yo, if you don't act right, we're going to take legal action. You're like, these are the two dudes that donated literally millions of dollars. They can clearly pay for good lawyers. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, you wouldn't mess. You're not going to mess around.
Yeah, that's what it always comes down to is the fight with the dollars you're going to have to give away to a lawyer to go on with it. And in most cases, it's not. Maybe in that one there, there was a lot of money to lose, but obviously they've done something. Yeah, they've probably done something a little bit dodgy if they weren't going to fight for it.
And
so what's his new? So it's no longer the sense.
That ends up being like a red team, blue team thing, right? Now there's two foundations because they didn't take back all the money. It was just part of the money, like I think just from those donors or whatever. So now you've got like red team, blue team shit where they're both working on the same thing but doing it two different ways. So it ends up being a win for humanity.
Yep. So that's
they also had some sort of petition. They had a petition or an email where they sent out and they asked the donors, like, what do you think? And I think a lot of Hexicans who donated would have, I'm sure, said, Aubrey de Grey needs to be at the helm. Speaking of helm, Tangent, we bought these devices, helm devices, right, which cost us a pretty penny because we wanted to host our own emails. And then what happened is the company, I guess, went bust, or they're just like, maybe got too rich and decided, hey, fuck this is too much work. Whatever it was, they deprecated their service as of the 31st of December, leaving us with expensive Raspberry Pis, very fucking expensive Raspberry Pis. But a positive thing that I found this week, because I went to the website just to see if it was still there, and they actually had some information on an OS that you can flash onto that flash. You can load this OS, this open source OS called Armbium, I think, or something like that. And it's you can just do it yourself, and at least that box is no longer just this useless. It's got all the instructions there. At least it's not this useless, expensive Raspberry Pi. Although it is still going to be. It's going to be a useful, expensive Raspberry Pi, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the important.
The thing that pissed me off was they sent out an email being like, "Yo, we're just going to sell the remaining stock, but without you, we're selling it, and you've got to know that you're not going to be able to use it in the way that it was intended, the service thing." And then they sent out another email after that where they're like, there's been so much demand in like the offer that we did when we were selling out the old stock. Now we're going to make like a version 2.0. And I'm like, what the shit now? So the company's like continuing, but they're not going to continue the support for the thing so it's one thing if you're like, we're closing our doors, we're really sorry, we can't support your shit anymore. That's one thing. But they're like, actually, we've changed our mind. We're going to continue, but the business model that we're continuing with still won't support your shit. So you're like, okay, so you guys are like going on without us. Like, even though we were founding investors, like we invested in you when you were effectively at like startup level.
Was this one, what's that, the startup thing?
Helm.
No, the platform for raising.
Oh, no. It wasn't a Kickstarter. No. It was none of that shit. It was an established company. But I just mean in terms of like the company was in its infancy. Like it was, you know, who didn't do that, who basically did the opposite, who's gone from strength to strength, is Start9. the Start 9 embassies, and they've got a new model out now where you it's like, again, it's like self-hosting, but I guess their focus is on. Actually, I don't know.
Self-hosting what? Self-hosting what?
I guess the idea started off that it was an easy way to host a Bitcoin node, but then they just started making more and more apps and more software until the point, like it was meant to be like Bitcoin and Lightning, so an easy way to do it. And then now they've just blown up. Now you can have like self-host your own password manager, messaging apps, Mastodon, like all like they've just gone from strength to strength, and they've actually now got a new unit that's more powerful out, stuff like that. And they actually, I heard them on a podcast recently where they said, when we asked people, what's your favorite app? It wasn't even the Bitcoin stuff that people, the majority answers were like apps that were non-Bitcoin. They were nothing to do with Bitcoin. So pretty interesting.
I think with all of that stuff, I think it's important that it is open source so that if they do go tits up, you can at least use all your stuff. So that's just going back to the Trezor Ledger thing. That's why I like the Trezors. You can literally, I think for about $30, you can go down to your local Dick Smith or Radio Shack or whatever they're bloody called these days and buy the parts to actually build a Trezor. And then you can load the firmware on there from their GitHub. So kind of like that, knowing that if the whole world imploded and they disappeared off the planet, you'd still be able to use all your devices or build one if you needed to. So I think that's important if you're going to self-custody or self-host things, to consider that for sure.
Yep.
I've got another clip here from Eric Voorhees, and what the interview he had last week. So I'll just play that.
Will government regulation make any of this stuff better? Of course, I'm going to say no to that. I mean, government regulation causes complacency and causes stagnation. And we only need to look at the banking industry itself to see that. No innovation in the banking industry in certainly my lifetime or decades prior. They're all heavily regulated, right? They just become complacent and static. And in the way, they have already died. Let's never let crypto lose that kind of fire and that passion. And let's never let it become this highly regulated, quagmire of media.
Back in the day, could anyone start a bank? I don't think you could. Could anyone fire up the tech to even remotely do the task that a bank does? Don't think you can. I don't think crypto will go down that path just by its very nature. Anyone that can code can build this shit, unless there's some real draconian stuff that's put in place to stop coders coding. I can't see how you put this genie back in the bottle.
Well, I actually tweeted out a news article today about, I forget what country it was, I'll find it, where they're trying to ban crypto. Like they're trying to do some kind of ban. And my attitude is always ha ha ha. Like good luck with that.
So what was your comment going to be, 43?
Actually, I was looking at the link that you gave me earlier on about some sort of. Some sort of is that like, I'm always careful about airdrops.
Yeah. We can go into that. Let's tangent.
I just found it. Nepal orders internet providers to block crypto-related websites. So this is like a great firewall of China level shit where they're actually going to block it so it will work in terms of, unless people use VPNs or Tor, and it's like, there'll be ways around it, but that's a pretty hardcore way to try and block people. It'll block a lot of average users. And so they're going to use basically the telecommunications infrastructure to block any crypto-related website, app, or online network. So That's,
Where's that?
I mean,
Sorry, where
that's Nepal. So I think that's a
right,
fail
right.
for them. That's a fail for them. But, and actually, maybe it's good that a country like that does it to demonstrate to larger countries, don't even try that shit. Do you know what I mean? It's great because it'll show them how much of a fail.
The Tor network is.
Tor network would smash that.
Way.
Yeah, Tor network would absolutely smash that shit. I heard actually,
but
that
three-letter agencies are all over Tor as well. They're running.
There's some Tor competitor. There's some network that's being built that's meant to be like faster and just as private. I know this sounds like we're doing a better Bitcoin. It's faster and cheaper. But in this case, I actually believe them because there's no financial incentive for them to lie about it. And because they were saying that Tor has become under just relentless DDoS attacks. It's been getting hammered, and it's become almost unusable in the last 6 to 8 months. So this other way of doing it, I wish I remember the name of the stuff, but it sounded really promising.
Is it like a P2P type thing?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think.
So a good way to use Tor, which is, and I've touched on this earlier in other streams, is an operating system called HEX, because you're actually using a host operating system, Debian 11, and then you're loading. HEX is being loaded into a virtual machine, and you've got a gateway, and you've got an and you've got your workstation. So you've got two virtual machines, and your workstation, all the traffic is going through Tor through the gateway. So that first hop is going, it's internal to what you're doing. So that, and I would say, look, it's not illegal to use Tor. Tor is 100% legal. It depends what you use it for.
Are you saying the entry and the exit on the relay are both local? So that
no, just the entry. It's doing a hop locally from virtual machine to virtual machine.
Okay.
So what that does is that first hop usually goes from your computer to another relay, right?
Yeah.
And that other relay could be a 3-letter agency relay.
Oh yes, yeah.
Right. So the fact that it's going like it's internal gives you a level of, and really for my understanding of it, which is very rudimentary, is that for any of your stuff to get the potential for any of your stuff to get accessed or at least followed from a metadata type perspective, there would need to be a 3-letter agency on the entry and exit.
I think they just isn't it called a Cybele attack? I think they just need a highly dominant number of the nodes.
And that's coupled with a man in the middle attack as well. There would need to be a man in the middle attack as a man in the middle as well. And when I say man in the middle of you and your router.
You and the destination, you mean?
If a country like Nepal or whoever implements something like that, they will capture 80-90% of the population. It's only the 10 to 20% that are strong believers or have the technology background or the will to understand and work around it. So I think it does have a stifling effect if they do something like that.
But that only looks like a win until they see the negative impacts of excluding themselves from the internet of money. So
I agree. Yeah.
So there's two ways they can fail. They can fail if they actually fail to implement it properly and people just circumvent it and there's no real change. But even if they manage to actually stop their citizens from using it, then they can fail on a second level, which is their own exclusion from participating in the leveling up of. It would be like excluding a country from the internet in the 90s.
That first point, Tangent, I actually think they've already failed that first It's impossible unless they are monitoring. I mean, I don't see with open
because
source
people could
software.
just create guides. People could create
They
guides
can't-
that even low tech users would be able to follow the guide.
Those guides, they don't need to create it. They already exist. Everything's out
And
there.
in fact,
It's already out there.
the people who are in crypto are already, so because crypto adoption is still so small, it is there is a higher technical competence of people who are already in crypto in general. That's not everyone in crypto, but proportionally, you would expect the competence level to be higher than, say, when we actually reach late stage adoption. There'll be a lot of people that are just like, oh, if it's not like, they want it to be like the slide.
It's got to be an app on your phone. Sort of thing.
Yeah, it's got to be an app on the phone where you just slide your finger across the screen to do all the shit. So this is actually the best chance that we have that people will be competent to circumvent those controls.
I find it odd that a country like Nepal would be opposed to something like this. They should be.
Who
They
knows
should be
why
the
they
country.
got that bug up their ass? That's crazy.
Yeah, they should be the country that is opening their arms because they need.
They should be
economic...
DCAing. They should legislate DCA.
That's right. They need the economic input, and to be honest, the current system is probably the one that's fucking them over. So
Yeah, there's only so much cashmere you can sell in a year. I have another clip. Can I play?
Go for it.
I mean, this lesson that people keep needing to learn is the dangers of custodial exchanges, custodial wallets. This is not a new lesson. That's the one that we need to keep teaching. And I don't expect that like brand new people to crypto are going to hop right over to self-custody, but certainly anyone who's in the industry for a little while and learns about some of this stuff needs to understand how to use basic self-custody. MetaMask, I feel, has actually done the most to help people into self-custody of anyone. And they do it without talking about self-custody. They just made a great product and got millions of users into self-hosted wallets. That's fantastic. But that lesson is really the one, because if the majority of crypto funds and crypto wealth reside with intermediaries, A, we will never escape the regulation that this stuff is meant to escape. And B, we will never escape the need to trust humans. And like, if we look back at even the Bitcoin white paper and Satoshi's writings, not that he's a god or anything, but he made a very important point, which is that the problem with traditional finance is all the trust that's required to make it work. Bitcoin removed trust from money itself. And that principle is so core, is so relevant for all the technology that we're building, for every blockchain, and that message above all needs to continue.
Cut off at the end there.
Man, I can't wait for PulseChain, man. Come on, PulseChain, LFG. I want to witness the explosion of building and talent and seeing and answering all of our curiosity on what's going to happen and like what coins are going to pump and all of that stuff. I'm actually starting to get quite impatient.
I've got to be honest. Would I like to see it launch? Yeah, hell yeah. But does it materially impact me on any given day? No, not really. I can see all cool stuff being built in the background. Speaking to a lot of people, things they're up to, and I think everyone's doing it the right way. Are there going to be some spectacular failures? For sure. But I think the core ethos of everyone that's building, they're very much about the DeFi side of things and the self-custody, and there won't be too many things that you can do on that chain that don't require you to be in the custody of your own things. Like, they're all going to be online, all decentralized, smart contract-based things you need to interact with. There's only one or two that are like the on and off ramp sort of scenarios, and even those guys that are doing that are taking a novel approach. From what I can see, they're trying to be as out of the loop as they possibly can in terms of money flow and who has access to what and who has custody to what. So I think everyone's doing it with the right intent. The one thing I haven't seen much of, and I don't know if you guys have, is whether Rackham and his team are on their centralized exchange, where they're at. It's been radio silence, so I don't know sort of what's happened there.
Were they setting up their own centralized exchange?
Yeah, so they were building out an on-ramp, and they were doing two things. I can't remember what the other one was, but there was definitely talk of an on-ramp. Seen some screen grabs and things like that he'd tweeted around, but yeah, it's been radio silence.
The other thing was the other thing was them hanging out in Saudi. That was the
other thing. Setting up an office in Dubai.
Yeah, that's cool. No, that's cool. That's cool.
But yeah, from what the whispers I'm hearing is the guys that are doing it the right way. So that's promising. And if we can, there's a few tweets going back and forth the other day, but one of my comments was we don't need an on-ramp with all the bells and whistles and futures and margin trading and all that. In actual fact, a simple on-off ramp is all you need, with the least amount of friction and the least amount of distractions on it as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah.
So yeah, if they can bring something like so Gelk, yeah, that's the crew I'm talking about. They're doing it the right way. The Coast guys. So, well, from what we know anyway, and what they've been on a stream with, I think it was Corey and
I did see some tweets about that actually. Is that the one where they said they might do buy and burn on HEX?
Yeah, I did see something along the lines of that the other day. I haven't gone into the detail on that, so I don't know what the specifics around that were. But yeah, that's if PulseChain, if that's the on ramps to PulseChain, and yeah, it comes at the cost of eyeballs if you're not on a Coinbase or a Binance or something like that. But I'd be very, very surprised if you didn't get a bit of a nibble from a big exchange. I'd be amazed, because that's bread and butter for them if they wanted to get some fees from people going through that chain and swapping things. That's low hanging fruit for them. So I'd be very, very surprised if they didn't. And if they don't, who gives a shit? We've got stuff that we're building anyway. It's like at the moment, it feels like there's going to be two separate industries. You know, the Richard ecosystem.
That could actually happen. That could actually happen, especially in the early stage, in that initial launch period. I mean, we already know that the dominant activity over there is going to be people who are RH fans. That
for sure,
massively dominate. And it's just about whether that changes over time, or
it's nothing new, man. Like there's factions in crypto, for sure. I mean, obviously there's the big clear one between Bitcoiners and the rest of crypto, but then everything that Sam was doing,
V all.
Yeah, V all. But everything that Sam was doing was probably at odds with everything that Vitalik was doing. So they all had they were carving out their own little islands. Although those islands can have bridges between them and they can do things, they are their own little islands in some instances.
I just remembered a counter that I heard to something that Richard said. So Richard took the opinion that when the ETH is allowed to be unlocked, that is going to create selling pressure. And I think that's a reasonable thesis. However, I did hear a counter I think it was Guy from Coin Bureau. He was saying that it's possible that there'll be some people who will actually who never locked their ETH because they didn't like the idea of it being unknown how long long it would be locked for, who will say, now I'm willing to lock my ETH because I know I can actually unlock it any time. And that would be the counterbalancing force, that all of those people that were like, hell no, I'm staying liquid, will be willing. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
And I think the larger institutions that wanted to obviously support the Beacon chain and what the ETH Foundation were doing, they went in big and provided that support. Whereas a lot of people that probably had 32 ETH to be able to run a validator, probably, like you say, didn't choose to do that. But then they will. I know me personally, not that I was interested in running a validator, but that would be my approach if I was doing it. I wouldn't have put it over there with an unknown unlock time, but that wouldn't say I wouldn't necessarily want to run a node using my own ETH when you can. So, and I think
so. What's interesting about that 30? Did you guys see that 32 million?
Yeah. I was just going to comment on that. Yeah.
So I guess how much it's actually going to cost people to run a validator is going to depend on the price of Pulse. So
what do we put the starting price of Pulse?
So if the price of Pulse was 0.0001, that would be $3,200.
Yep.
To run a node, and if the price goes up, it will get more and more expensive to run a node.
That could get very expensive very quickly. Potentially, like if you 100x, that's pretty expensive node validating node.
You were all over this when we did the sacrifice. Did you come up with a like based on the sacrifice values and the amount of Pulse tokens that will be issued, airdropped? Did you come up with like a theoretical price for Pulse based on those figures?
You're testing the memory now, but I think what you said then was pretty much bang on. Like
it was either 3 or 4 zeros.
I think it was three zeros and a 1, if I recall correctly. I'd have to go back and do the numbers. And then I'd done something else where I tried to apply a different metric to see if what would happen. And some other people worked it out on percentages of how much value of ETH could get brought over to PulseChain, which I thought was a flawed way of doing it. But off the pure funds that went into the sacrifice phase, I think the three zeros and a 1 is probably the starting price. Obviously, there's, I think, so that was the average. Obviously, some people got a lot better deal than others, depending on how any sort of multipliers and things you got. So if that's the starting price, that could be a very expensive validator, I think. Just depends what.
Well, $3,200, and
that's reasonable. I think that's reasonable, but above
with 100x,
add another zero.
That's $320,000 for a validator.
Bro, that's hectic.
So you want to know that you want to be really over the you want to know the slashing rules, don't you? You really want to know what the slashing rules are like, and I'm very interested to know what they're going to be. Are you got like how much principal? Like, is it going to eat into principal? Like, what is? You'd think it has to. Now that there's not going to be delegated proof of stake, and it's just going to be just a straight proof of stake.
Yeah. T-Bird, are you sure it was 32 mil? Is that what everyone heard?
I'm pretty sure that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting that Richard making that comment that just that simple change of scaling up the supply in an attempt to dilute Ethereum holders when this whole thing happens meant that it was overflowing the storage, which means that they have to test everything to make sure it's not going to be a problem, like in terms of when they fix it so it can hold those larger integers.
Yeah.
And so it's something like that, where something so simple where you're like, oh, we're just going to have like a multiplication of the total supply, and then it actually causes like a massive problem. There'd be other things like that. And so obviously that's part of the reason that these delays have been longer than expected.
That to me is an issue.
Gnosis Chain have an elegant solution to this problem, because their tokens don't match that 32. So what they've done is they create a meta token. So you have to, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but you swap a certain amount of tokens and that gives you 32 meta tokens, which you then stake. And then they obviously didn't have to go and play around with that code.
Yeah. It'll be at competing odds. Ethereum already has this issue where, from a gas fee perspective, where the more you burn the token, and if you can make the supply deflationary, or you try to inject price growth into ETH, that hinders the network, because then all your gas fees just go through the roof and the network's not usable. It wouldn't be as bad on PulseChain from that perspective, because you got a low cost of your coin base. But from a validated perspective, I see that as a massive, massive issue. I can't see how that's going to work in theory. Like it would be at odds. Like if you want to have the price of Pulse be price performant, and we've got built-in deflationary aspects to it, I just can't see how that is going to work out financially. You would end up with massive centralization of the nodes. I think if you get in, well, like saying, so if you've put in $3,000, then you're probably in a position where if you're early, you're in a position where you can run a validating node, but I couldn't see that lasting for too long. You'd want to be some.
You don't want a situation where price appreciation reduces the decentralized nature of that node validator ecosystem. So with a vast increase in price, there's going to be an incentive for people to pull their staked whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep.
So these are interesting questions that we're going to need to.
I guess the flip side to that is what sort of fees are you getting from running a validator?
Yeah.
So does that offset that? Like I can see why he pulled 32 million, because he's basically just done the multiple of the supply that we've got. But
exactly, because it's 32 ETH and the supply is going to be about 1 million times higher.
Yeah. So yeah.
But if the price goes up too much, then it's going to stop smaller players from, because it's deflationary model. There's not going to be any more Pulse. It's going to stop newer entrants from being able to participate in that way. So do you think it's possible that in future they could reduce that required amount to make it so that would promote decentralization, like especially if the price has increased significantly, then you're allowing newer entrants with lesser amounts to be able to stake and validate.
And I guess potentially you could unwind that as well as you're going. So it might sit at X amount to stake now, but over time be able to reduce that. Surely Ethereum's got the same issue. So if it's already 50 grand to run a Ethereum validator, and they do a 10x in the next cycle, they've got the same issue. Or even if they get back to their all-time highs, how much was that? That was what, say roughly $5,000. Let's have a quick look. You're going to have very similar issues anyway. $5,000 times 32, that's 160 grand. So that's out of the reach of most entrants into the space, or even people that have been around a little while. So they've got the same issue. And if that, once you 10x that, if they go up to 15 grand or 50 grand per coin, they've got the exact same problem. You're talking 1.6 mil to run a validator.
I've got to head off, guys. I have left a link in the thing if you want to discuss. It's to do with Tornado Cash, a little bit of a chain analysis view.
I'll bring it up right now, dude.
On that, and no, you can do it after I've left. It's not a big deal. It's not. It's
What's it about? Do you want to give us a
They're basically saying minimal impact to the amount that the protocol was actually used. They reckon that the inflows and outflows were about equal. Something like towards the end of the article, it says something like no, you're too low now. That's the end of the article there. So 1.73 mil, is that it's the resolution I'm seeing is not that high, but basically saying the inflows and outflows were roughly equal with only like an 80 mil difference or something. Yeah.
So sorry, what was the skinny on it?
That basically, so that people are still using it. People are still using Tornado Cash.
Right. Okay.
So they're basically saying the only damage that occurred was it stopped the front end, and so their conclusion is that the sanctions failed to stop Tornado Cash, which is what we were saying from the very beginning. Is that you can't. And they're saying the smart contracts can run indefinitely. So
yeah,
it's exactly what we said at the start. And really, it's the fear. Obviously, the main people who would have stopped using it are people that live in America because they don't want to come under the wrath. But for everyone else around the world, it's just it's an inconvenience that you have to find a different front end.
Yeah, but you then can't use, if there's a centralized, or if there's a tool in the space that is US based, so they're operating out of US soil and they have to abide by the sanctions. There's an impact because you can route things around in the background between your addresses, but if you go to interact with one of these protocols that have got front end.
The nodes are censoring you. The nodes are now censoring you.
Oh yeah. Sorry. So you're saying this idea of like blacklisted coins, like dirty coins, black coins versus white coins and stuff. Yeah. So, you know how you would solve that though?
You run your own node. Is how you solve that. Yeah,
you either run your own node or you but I guess I was going to say you could use some kind of you could use ZK Money or ZK, like some other ZK Sync, some other one. But then if you're going to do that, you might as well just use that. There's no point using Tornado and then having to use something else. Although you could argue that if you trusted Tornado more because of how long it's been operating and how hard it got targeted, and then you're just using the secondary protocol to wipe the black mark on the coins rather than as the primary obfuscation method, then there would maybe be an argument for doing it like that, where you use two. ZK Money has become very popular, very, very, very popular. So ZK.money, which is, and I've heard a lot of people talking about how those ZK solutions are actually really good for privacy. And less likely to get targeted because they're not making, although privacy is an important part of how it works, they're not promoting it as if that's the primary function. They're saying,
is that a layer 2? Is it a layer 2 ZK Money?
Yeah, it's technically a layer 2. It is.
Is there a bridge?
Yeah. Yes.
Is that
as in,
bridge?
yes.
It's obviously centralized in some respects. If there's a
Look,
bridge,
the
we
wording
don't
the
know what
wording
trust
that
is
they
gonna be.
use doesn't sound like it's a bridge, but it kind of is, because you're rolling it up or whatever. You're using that zero knowledge proof to go to that other layer. So they don't call it a bridge, but it's obviously a bridge. It's like some kind of similar tech.
Is it
And
maybe we should?
fees lower.
So in light of Tornado not being unusual, but being less, I guess, less desirable at this point in time, do you reckon we should run one of these streams where we just have a night where we talk about alternatives and what people can be doing?
I mean, I've already found my favorite alternative is that ZK.money. So they don't call it bridging; they call it shielding.
Shielding,
But
yeah.
like I said, it's just
So
you can
that's
use
very
you can
similar.
use-
Sorry to jump. That sounds like it's very similar to what the Tornado Nova system had, which was basically jumping to Gnosis Chain, a shielded account on Gnosis Chain, which is a compatible EVM. But I don't know if there was bridging. I think it might be akin to bridging. I'm not sure exactly. I don't have that technical.
Do you think between us we can find maybe the three good examples of ways to now keep your privacy, and we do a night where we just talk about that? I don't know if there's interest in that.
Can I put forward a preliminary list right now?
I'm down.
Okay.
I'm down.
Side,
Railgun.
I haven't heard of that one. Actually, I have heard of it, but I've never looked into it at all. I would say that there's a website called SideShift, which I think allows you to go to from Ethereum to Monero. So
exchange.
Beetroot.
Yeah, that's by someone related to the community, isn't it?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Beetroot. It's people from the RH community, because they've already heavily stated that PulseChain is going to get supported as soon as it's available, and they've got the privacy bridge. So whereas with SideShift, it's not designed to be a privacy bridge, but you are right that you can shift into Monero. So you're kind of like you're forcing it. You're forcing it to give you privacy by shifting into something that has privacy by default, rather than but that might actually be better, because then rather than trusting the privacy of the bridge tech, you're actually trusting the privacy of Monero's tech, which is more broadly accepted that it actually does provide privacy.
And I want to find out more
checked, more audited.
Yeah, I'd like to find out more about
Secret Network. Hell yes.
There's an issue with Secret. Yeah. I mean, Secret Network, I think, is another good potential option. But the issue that I think with Secret Network is the lack of wallet options, and as far as I understand, the lack of you need to trust the nodes that they're providing in that wallet. So there's a couple of points there that are potentially problematic. But I think the most elegant solution is something that is just natively on chain. So I think right now, even though those Tornado contracts are still running, for the average person, how do they actually access them, and how do they use them I guess if they're looking for anonymity in an anonymous way.
But it's not even that. It's the same issue where you may figure that out technically, but then get tripped up when you go to use a protocol that is censoring it, or you send funds to an exchange and they blacklist you because you've interacted with it. So I think unfortunately, that's the risk. But I guess it's in two two minds. Then, do you, by virtue of them putting it on the sanctions list, and then everyone going, "Well, I'm not going to use it now," have they not just won?
I thought the Tornado Nova implement that version of it with the shielded stuff. I thought that was really good, and the fact that ZK Money is sort of following that that method, I like it. I just like the sound of it. I've had nothing to do with it, but I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
You know what someone could do is, because you know how people were actually withdrawing out of Tornado Cash, actually withdrawing increments like say 0.1 ETH when they were doing those dust attacks. Someone could actually just withdraw like a mega amount of ETH into one wallet and then just use one of these bulk senders like cointools.io and just dust the shit out of literally every Ethereum wallet and just be like, how about now, motherfucker? Like, it's like either shut down the network or fuck off.
And that's the same sort of approach that I was that I guess using the Tor network. If everyone uses a Tor network, it's really, really hard for any I guess agency or authority to say no one can use it if everyone's using it. So that's why where it's not illegal to use Tor, you should use it. Use it.
It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell when it's slower. People always going to opt for convenience and speed over privacy.
You don't have to use it for everything.
Yeah, you just use it for important stuff.
Just use it for a couple of. Just use it a little bit, and then that just helps the whole network. It just, if everyone's using it, it's just obfuscation by. It's like a herd pack mentality.
If everyone used Tornado Cash, and then you had centralized entities that couldn't use it or refused to support it, would they not just go out of business? If they're not going to be able to accept any transactions, is that not natural attrition where they?
There's a simple way around it, isn't it? Like that address that has a Tornado transaction in it, you just do a hop to another address. Doesn't even need to be. It doesn't even need to. You don't know that what?
Well, it depends on how far back they want to trace the history.
That's right. That's correct.
So I don't know. It's a tricky one.
How much work are they going to do? Like that's the thing. How much work are they actually going to do?
Automated. It's all automated these days. There's companies that is their whole business is just providing that analytics. So all they've got to say is how many hops do you want to go back? Like how strict do you want to do your checking? Is it one hop? Is it two?
And then Andreas Antonopoulos used to talk about this a while back, and he was basically saying if they do n hop, if they are looking at n hops, you just do n+1 hops. And then because they have to draw the line. They have to draw the line somewhere, otherwise it's going to be the whole network.
Well, that's the
we all know it's stupid.
But that's automatically the whole Ethereum network then is no longer usable, because enough hops between addresses. If you say it's 6 hops, isn't
a lot of fees and
hang on, isn't 7 degrees of separation between everyone in the world? So maybe the same would apply for the Ethereum network. We need to go 7 hops. Any address within 7 hops of
you could check
a Tornado Cash.
You could actually check that on chain. You could do an on chain analysis to see how many, how interrelated the network is in terms of the degrees of separation. But remember that Ethereum is account based. So unlike Bitcoin, where it's UTXO, where you can actually trace back every individual component of the Bitcoin that was sent independently, with Ethereum, once something lands in an account, you don't know which part of that account balance is the dirty coins and the clean coins. So it's almost like you're kind of mixing coins even within an account.
So I thought about it like that. I always thought UXTOs were better from a privacy standpoint, but I didn't think about it from that point of view.
So it's It's yeah. But by the way, before I go, T-Bird made an awesome comment that I just double check, like not checked to see if he was telling the truth, but checked because I wanted to go and actually look and see it and retweet it. That Richard Hart tweeted out about ZK.money. So that's a pretty massive
Endorsement. Yeah.
addition. Like it was already my favorite out of the list, particularly just in the short term. I think Beatrix going to become my favorite. That Beatrix privacy bridge, because so ZK money only does ETH, like literally only ETH, i.e. you can only wash Ethereum. Like it doesn't have a way of shielding ERC20.
Privatize Ethereum.
So when you're shielding, you have to. So once you're in that shielded layer, you actually can interact with DeFi, but you when you're going between shielded and unshielded, it can only be Ethereum. Whereas obviously that Beatrix privacy bridge, and it's got like XSwap and anonymities and on exchange and stuff like that. Those combined tools give you a lot more flexibility. So, but the fact that Richard has freaking rocked this is great news.
Just before you go, Tangent, did you come up with an outrage marketing tactic for Richard for this week? Last week we went over flushing toilets with Dom Perignon.
I had to focus on getting that speech done because my focus right up until today was every spare moment I had, I was working on speech, which wasn't actually a lot of spare moments. But so I know I haven't given that any thought, but I promise by next week I will. You can explain the idea to Jexer, and for the segment,
You know what we're talking about, Jexer?
I've got a loose idea, but so when you say you didn't have many spare moments, was that because you were busy taking photos of floating unicorns?
Oh, it was I was mainly partying across the weekend. I think we were still in that festive period, like as in everyone was still partying from the whole Christmas New Year thing. So I was out a lot over the weekend, and it was just really fortunate that because of the time zones and that my slot was not until Tuesday. Otherwise, I probably would have been stuffed. And so for my sign off, if you haven't already watched the conference, it's really good. I encourage everyone to go and watch it, especially my speech, which is like, I think an hour and 20 minutes in from the start of day 4. And obviously all of Richard's stuff as well. Richard's got a 4 hour and 25-minute segment, which he has actually tweeted. It's on his YouTube channel. So he's put his section that he's on for is on his YouTube channel if you just want to watch that. Otherwise, Maddie's channel's got the whole conference. Thanks for all the compliments from everyone about the talk that I did. And peace out. I will try to start streaming a little bit more this year, but I'll always be on this stream. So minimum once a week, you'll see me right here on the motherfucking Late Show.
Thanks, Tangent. Appreciate you coming on. Just before you do go, I've got one outrage marketing idea for you. It's called, and I don't really know what it means. It's called 2 girls, 1 heart. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? Would that be outrageous? I don't know.
It's gone over my head. What are you talking about?
I can't work out whether 43 is pretending not to know what this is about, but there's okay, all right. I don't even know if we should say it, but there's
no, we don't need to say
do not Google this. Do not Google this, but it's in reference to 2 girls, 1 cup. Where
if you Google it, do it in a Tor browser.
2 girls, 1 heart would obviously be a 3-way with Richard Hart. So much more appropriate than the original, a cleaner version of the original. And so, peace out. Peace out.
Cheers, mate.
See you, buddy.
See us.
Hey, Jexa. We've been here for 2 hours. Should we wind it up? Unless you've got something else you want to. touch
Yeah,
on? There
no, I
was
think
that link you sent me earlier,
well,
or do you want to
well,
maybe
actually,
save that for next week?
no, that's an easy one because I'm probably not going to do any great in-depth discussion on it. So maybe we just mention it and point them to a source of some info.
Yep.
And leave it at that. So what we're talking about, guys, and the reason why we're being a little bit coy, I guess, is we're just being mindful of what projects are brought up on the show and making sure we're not sending anyone down the wrong path. But there's a new project by someone that's well known in the community, done a lot of work on the HEX side of things, and that's Kodiak. So he's released a project called Communist. Yep. So the link that 43 is just put in the chat. Basically, it's a free airdrop for HEX stakers, but it's not something that's a one-off airdrop and it's then like another meme coin or something like that. There's some real dynamics to the project which are built around encouraging more stakes, longer stakes, just good behavior in terms of staking and using HEX. So there's a bit of game theory around how it works and how many tokens you get issued. You can only there's a staking component to it, but you can't just go and buy the tokens on market and stake them. The only way you can do the staking is by actually participating in a HEX stake, and on the end of that HEX stake, then it can get rolled into the staking, or maybe it happens on a start stake as well. But yeah, T-Bird's got just put in the punchline on this one. Go watch Coffee's video. Runs for about 28 minutes. I'm sure there's a lot more devil in the detail when you read it. And sorry, devil in the detail is the wrong word, but there's a lot more detail to this in terms of the game theory side of things. So you're going to have to put in a little bit of work to understand all the dynamics. But Coffee does a pretty good summary of it for 28 minutes. There was another one by, I mean, it was KG that ran for over an hour. So I chose the Coffee one. I was being a bit lazy, but at least understand what it is and know whether you want to participate. It's not weighted towards people that have been in HEX longer. It's actually a pretty fair way of doing it, and is done to encourage better future behavior from the community. So I think at least go and check it out, and maybe some free coins there for you. Could that be worth anything? Who knows? It's a funny world we live in where value can come from nowhere. But yeah, at least go check it out and make an informed decision on it.
Okay. Let's wind it up, Jexa. We've been going for over 2 hours. Thank you very much for coming on and discussing all those things that we've discussed today. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's pretty much it from me. I think there's a lot of good content out of the conference. There's still a lot that I need to go watch. Overall, I've got a pretty positive vibe from everything that's going on. I think the market's going to do what the market's going to do, but there's just so much happening in the background. You can't help but be positive longer term. Lucky
we're staked, eh? We don't have to worry about we don't have to worry about selling.
This is short-term pain. Assuming the world gets back to some sort of normalcy at the macro side of things, we've already seen when prices start to rally a little bit across the market, HEX goes up. So it's just market dynamics. So I think you just got to sit tight and let time do the work. But we already knew that.
Absolutely. I want a big shout out to the chat. Thanks, guys. You guys are the ones who make it worth our while coming on stream every week. And yeah, that's it. Next week, I'm going to be cameraless, but if I even make it. So I hope you or Tangent can make it next week.
I think I'll be around. Yeah. Yep. Should be around.
Okay. We're going to make it work somehow.
Yeah.
So yeah. Signing off for this week. Thanks again to everyone. We'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.